I am pretty excited to be here. My name is Leslie Zimmershied. I've been with the department just a little over 6 years. I work in the data team, and my official title is Data Governance Coordinator, but I do a lot of other things with the data. And one of the things that I really like to do is talk to people about how to use their data. You can use your data for lots of things, and there's an analogy that I'm sure some of you have heard over and over again from me, but you can use your data as a hammer, or you can use it as a flashlight. You can take your data, you can use it to hit someone over the head with it and then make it really painful. Or you can use your data as a flashlight to guide the way of where we want to go. And I think the data should be a flashlight. And so today I want to talk to you about the reports that we've published. They're all on Fusion. As you may have heard, today is the first day for these reports. They are embargoed, and this is fresh off the press. This is brand new information that you're going to see. You're some of the first people to see it. It was put on our website this morning, so if you didn't get a printed copy, but you brought a device, you can connect through our Fusion portal and look at your reports as I talk about these generic reports online. So we're going to talk about these school performance reports. You'll hear us sometimes refer to them as SPRs. So these are the school performance reports that are required by the state WAEA legislation. All of our data that we release are put out in our Fusion portal. We love our Fusion portal because it is secure. It has really excellent top-notch security on it. It has better than bank level access controls. So we really like to use our portal whenever we would put out any sort of special or important information. It goes onto the Fusion portal. We've created a brand new space for these reports. If you are familiar with Fusion, you'll know that there is a tab on there once you log in that says Data Reporting. So you click on that Data Reporting tab, and under that you'll see a new link that says State Accountability Confidential. That is the module that we will be using for these reports. And that's where you'll find all of this information today. State Accountability Confidential. It's only available to you once you log in. You cannot see this as a member of the public. It's only for people who have school district or school logins. Data security is something that I talk about all the time. This is actually Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So happy Cybersecurity Awareness Month, everyone. If you follow me on Twitter, I've been tweeting all month about cybersecurity, especially as it relates to our children, and to things that school administrators can do in terms of cybersecurity to keep our kids safe online. What you can do with these reports to keep our kids safe is to make sure that any printed copies don't get let out. We are under an embargo right now, and I ask everyone to respect that embargo. During the next couple weeks, while we were under this embargo period, the reports are for you. They are to be used by your school, your district, your learning communities to figure out your path forward. These reports will be kept under embargo until the first week in November, and we'll let you know when the embargo is lifted. There will be a public event the first week in November, and we'll let you know that the embargo has been lifted. But until then, to keep our kiddos safe, let's make sure that any printed copies stay safe, and if you're done with them, shred them. If you need to keep them in the envelope. Don't leave them on top of your desk or on top of your table. Don't leave them on the table at Starbucks when you're done there. So keep these reports safe. Another thing I like to talk about is privacy. Privacy is about your right to keep your own data to yourself. We really respect that, and we try to make sure that for all of the students who contribute to these reports, that we keep their information private in every way that we can. We use a lot of statistical methods to make sure that no student can be personally identified in these reports. Confidentiality is about the responsibility that we have as staff members to protect that student data. We have been entrusted with something really special here, and we like to make sure to keep these reports confidential and to do everything we can in terms of our policies. And the WD is always working on new ways to make sure that we train our staff to keep student records confidential. And just a reminder about the embargo window one more time. The embargo window will be lifted the first week in November. So until then, keep this information within your school or within your district, and then we'll have a big public release the first week of November when we can talk about statewide results and compare district to district. But until then, I'm going to be showing you an anonymized report. You will have your own school in front of you, and if you need to, you can log in and look at it on your computer while I talk about it on the screen. But my information is anonymous up here. There's two versions of the report. There's an elementary school report and there's a high school report. So I'm going to start right here with the elementary. There's lots of colors, lots of stuff going on. So at the top, you'll see this is Orioles Elementary, and this is our 2013 school performance report. Their overall school performance level, or SPL, is right here in this big colored box. We've used a nice fruits and vegetables color scheme here, and this school is meeting expectations. So it's a lemon yellow. There are 4 different performance levels. The top is exceeding expectations, then down from that is meeting expectations. Then right below that is partially meeting expectations, and the lowest level is not meeting expectations. So we've used a nice color scheme. Exceeding schools are lime green, meeting schools are lemon yellow, partially meeting schools are orange, and not meeting expectations schools are tomato red. So in our sample school here, Oriole Elementary, they are meeting expectations. This is their overall performance level. The first indicator on here is growth, and Oriole Elementary is below target, so they have a red box there for their growth. Deb explained MGPs, so you can see below that, below the growth label, we have the MGP for the school. Here in our sample, Oriole Elementary, it is 42.5, and we always put the count of students next to that. So the count of students is just to the right of the MGP, so right here. And then next to that, we have some plain English description of what the growth indicator is. Growth talks about our growth from year to year, and so you have to have 2 years of scores to get an MGP, to get a student growth percentile. So the MGP only includes those students that have 2 years. So that's why we always put the count. The count of students will always be less than your total enrollment because not every student has 2 years in a row of pause scores. Up above that, I forgot to mention, these are clickable links up at the top. School and district information will pop up and show you the enrollment, the grade configuration, some basic stats about your school. Below that is a link that says Summary of Accountability Model. That will take you to a Word document that explains the model and how we got here. Those are just some references for you. Schools always have to have at least 10 students showing evidence to have a score. So you might see in some places where there's no score, and that's because there aren't enough students. You have to have 10 students to have a score. So below growth is equity. Remember, equity is a measure of the consolidated subgroup. Those students who are most vulnerable, those students who are below basic or basic in the prior year, those students who were not proficient. This is a measure of how well they grew. And our sample school here, they were exceeding targets. So they have a lime green. Again, the score and the end count is right next to it, along with a plain English explanation of what equity means. Below that is the achievement indicator. Achievement is based on the state test. And so at the elementary school level, it is pause. We only use students who are full academic year in these calculations. There are only students who were there from the October 1st until the midpoint of the test window in the spring. So only full academic students are counted. Mobile students are not counted. If you look into the student level data that's provided to you, all students will be included in that. But when we calculate these performance reports, only the full academic year students are included. So below the achievement is a table, and that table shows where the cuts are. That's your reference table. It can be slightly different for different schools, especially if your grade configurations are across the elementary, middle school, high school band. Yes?
If your schools aren't
Yes. The question was about having a school that doesn't have tested grades. And so if you have a school that does not serve tested grades, you're paired for accountability. And this is the same pairing that's used for the federal accountability. So students who are in, like, for example, a K-2 school will be paired up with an intermediate or elementary school that they feed into. So there will be a pairing there. When you click on that up above, where it says school and district information, if you click on that, you will end up with the name of the paired school. If you're paired, the name will be up there. The professional judgment panel is the one who set these targets. They're the ones who determined all of these scores. And they had a meeting and thought very carefully about these scores. They didn't just pick something. They thought pretty hard about these, and they met several times to come up with these cut scores. We didn't just pull them out of the hat. Below that reference table, we have the participation rate. There are 3 indicators, but then there's also a requirement for participation rate. So at the bottom of the first page is the participation rate, and our sample school here, 100%, they did great on their participation. Second page. The second page is a drill down. So that first page is your overview that explains at a high level what's going on. Once you get into the second, third, fourth pages, those are a drill down of the information that's on the front. So we'll start out with growth. The top of the second page has growth. And here's our sample school, Cardinal Elementary. The Cardinals school median MGP, median growth percentile, is in the first row across the top for all the grades combined. And then as you move from the left to the right, you see the different subject areas on the test. So remember, when we're calculating growth, we only do that for reading and math. We don't calculate any growth for science. So we have reading and math combined in the first column, then math, then reading on its own, and then again down the side, the outside, we always have the number of students that contributed scores. We've interlaced the school with the state so that you can easily compare your school to the state score for all the subject areas and for every grade that is served in your school. So you can see where things might have gotten lost. Sometimes when we have these rolled up numbers, things get lost. So in our sample school here, their reading and math combined MGP was 42.5. But if you look down right here, there's a 9 for their 6th grade math, right here. That's something that might have gotten lost when we roll everything up. So we've broken it out here so you can see that 9 is kind of covered up. So that would be an area to look at. That would be something that you would want to pay attention to. Below the growth, we have the equity table. And equity, again, remember, is about the consolidated subgroup. So these are the students who were below basic or basic in the prior year, measuring how well they grew. So we have the school compared against the state, and then we have each of the subject areas, reading and math combined, and then math and reading on their own, with the end count down the outside column. Then on your page, you will have the achievement score. And remember, achievement is just about pause. And when we're talking at the elementary school, it's just the pause score. So this is your percent of students who are proficient or advanced on the state test. And we've broken it out by grade and by subject area. We have all the subject areas here, not just reading and math, but we also have included science and writing. So those empty squares are the not tested grades. Right there. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the report. Those are just the grades where they're not tested. So we've broken it out so you can see real quick where you compare against the state. This is the end of the elementary school report. It ends by showing the participation rates. We've got two different participation rates here. Hey, look. There is the all students subgroup, which is everybody, and then we have that consolidated subgroup. So you can compare all your students against your consolidated subgroup for participation rate. And this school just did awesome. They were 100%. Below that are the performance level descriptions. The performance levels are different. The descriptions are different between the elementary, middle school, and the high school. So check those out. This is an plain English description of what it means to be at each level. This is a real quick sentence here or two that explains what does it mean to be exceeding? What does it mean to be meeting? And there it is written out for you very quickly. That is at the end of all of the reports. I'm going to move on to the high school if there's no more questions about elementary. All right. Okay, there's a lot more stuff going on at the high school level. These reports are a little bit more crowded. So we'll start at the top. This is Royals High School. Royals High School is not meeting expectations. They have a tomato red box here at the top. That's their overall performance level, just like the elementary one. The first box at the top of the page is your overall school performance level. Just like at the elementary, there are 4 performance levels: exceeding, meeting, partially meeting, and not meeting. The top is exceeding and the bottom is not meeting. The 2 links in the middle of the page will take you to additional information. You can click to see stats about your school or your district by that top link. And the second one has a Word document that is a summary of the accountability model for the high school and how we got where we are. The first indicator on the high school report is academic performance, and that is made up of equity and achievement. Our sample school here, Royals High School, you can see their lime green. They have an exceeding targets rating for their academic performance. Their equity score was exceeding. They had a score of 127 with 94 students contributing to that. Right below that in the lemon yellow box is the achievement score. 41% of students were proficient or above. In the high school level, when we talk about the achievement indicator, that is just the 11th grade ACT. This school was meeting targets with 36 students, 41% of them were proficient or above. Below that we have the readiness. Readiness is a combination. It's made up of graduation rate and something we call the additional readiness, which includes your Hathaway levels, your test for your whole ACT suite, and the grade 9 credit accumulations. So in this sample school here, the graduation rate was exceeding targets. They had a 94.2% graduation rate for their 4-year on-time rate. That is the same rate that we calculate every year and publish on our website. Below that is the extended rate. That's a little bit different than what we put on our website for grad rates. When we publish grad rates just for publication, the extended rate, we do a 5-year rate and a 6-year rate that are on their own. For WAEA, they've been combined. So we have any student that graduated in 4 years or 5 years or 6 years or 7 years all go into that extended rate. We don't break it out by years here. So in this case, their extended year rate was 95.6. And so that gave them a nice green exceeding targets rating. Below that is the additional readiness. And again, additional readiness includes those 3 sub-indicators that are the Hathaway, the tested readiness for your entire ACT suite, and the number of students who are on target for their 9th grade credits, who've completed 9th grade with the right number of credits. So this is the rest of the high school report. At the top, we have that chart. That chart has the cuts for it, so you can see how close you were. See, oh gosh, I was really close. If I can get 1 more point, I'll be exceeding on that indicator. So the cuts are there. We have the graduation rate here and the additional readiness below that. The cut scores could be slightly different for every school depending on things like your grade configuration, so check that table out. Below that is participation rate. Oh, look, 72.4. This school has a 72.4% participation rate, so they have a not met for their participation rate. You may have noticed on the first page, all of their indicators were green and yellow. They were all lemons and limes, so they had great stuff going on the first page. But they have a participation rate that was really low. So they were docked. Their overall performance rating was brought down because of this participation rate. It is a requirement that at least 95% of your students take the test. And so if you're below 95%, but above 90%, you'll be docked one level. Any participation rate below 90% will be automatically moved to the bottom, to the not meeting targets. So that's why this school, you saw on the first page, they had all lemons and limes on their indicators, but their overall performance level was not met. It was because of the participation rate. After that, we get into the indicators. So the first indicator that has detail is the readiness. So readiness is made up of graduation rate and the additional readiness sub-indicators. So the first table is the graduation rate. There is a line right here for the 4-year rate, and then below that is the extended rate. Schools could also meet their graduation targets by improving to a preset target. So if the school has a lower graduation rate, this right here will be filled in with their individual target, and that target can help you meet the graduation rate indicator. So if you've met for that improvement target, even if you haven't brought your graduation rate up all the way, if there's significant improvement in the 4-year on-time graduation rate, that can help you meet the indicator here. Below that is the readiness. So we have Royals High School here. We have their Hathaway score. We have their tested readiness score. We have their grade 9 credits. Because these are sub-indicators, they're weighted. So Hathaway gets 40%. The tested readiness from ACT Suite gets 30%. And the percent of students meeting their 9th grade credit requirements also gets 30%. We've put the individual school on the left and Wyoming on the right, so you can see how those scores were weighted and how they compare to the state real quick. Okay, moving on, we have on the next page, we start out with the detail of the Hathaway. There are 5 levels for Hathaway. There's the not eligible level, and then there's provisional, opportunity, performance, and honors. Students who qualify for each of those levels are given points, and you can see the points across the top of the table right here. So a student who's not eligible earns 40 points. A student with provisional eligibility gets 70 points. Opportunity is 80. Performance is 90. And honors is 100. So this is an index score, and all of those points for every student are added up, and you can see what percent of your students in your school fall into each of those categories. So here at Giants High School, 22% of their students were not eligible, 22 were provisional, 12 went into the opportunity, 29 into performance, and 15 into the honors. So this is a distribution of the students based on their Hathaway eligibility category. Below that, we have the unweighted GPA. The unweighted GPA comes from the transcripts, just so you know. The student's final unweighted GPA goes into a category, into a range, and so this is a distribution of the students in every school based on where they fall within those GPA ranges. So in our sample school here, 37% of the students had a GPA above 3.5. Below that is the best composite ACT. This also comes from the transcripts that we collect at the end of 12th grade. So for the ACT or the work keys, there are levels, and every student is placed into a level based on their score, best composite ACT or work keys score. And this table shows the distribution, the percent of students who fall into each of those levels. So our sample school here we have 28% of the students that fall into level 2, which is anywhere between a 17 and a 19 on the ACT, or anything better than a 12 on work keys. And then right below that is a link. This is a link right here. You can click to be taken to more information about all this Hathaway Hathaway eligibility levels. It's a really great document that has tons of information about this Hathaway indicator. Right below that, we have a reference table. These are the score ranges for the ACT tests. Each of the assessments has a range and a level, and students in every grade that test contribute points. And so this is your reference here to show you what the points are. Level 4, the top level, those students earn 100 points. Right below that, students at level 3 earn 80 points. Students at level 2, 50, and level 1, that's 20 points. So every student who tests contributes to the school's overall index score. To the right of that, we have the average index score by test. So on this side, you can see this is how each student is assigned a score. And then over here, this is your average score. So Giants High School here, all contents combined was 62. So each student is assigned a score and then it's averaged. Okay. At the bottom is the grade 9 credits. This is a pretty easy table. This is the percent of students in the school who finished 9th grade with the number of credits that is 1/4 of the way to graduation. So whatever the school's total required credits is, we divide that by 4, and this is the percent of students who've met that target by the end of 9th grade. So here in our Giants High School, our sample school, the percent of students was 88. So 88% of 9th graders finished the year with the required number of credits. Those students are on track to graduate. We're going to keep going with the high school report. The next indicator is equity. Equity is a measure of those students who were below proficient in the prior year to see how much they've grown. So at the high school level, we look at the students who in the prior year had a 10th grade plan score that was below proficient. To see this year on 11th grade on their regular standard ACT, how much did they grow? Did they show a lot of improvement? And this is a score to show how your students are doing, how those students who are most vulnerable are progressing. So this is a comparison between an individual student's 10th grade plan and their 11th grade ACT. And then below that is the achievement indicator, which is the percent of students who are proficient or above on the state test, and that is the 11th grade ACT. So this is simply the percent of students who were proficient or above on the 11th grade ACT, and this table shows each of the subject areas, and we don't have it broken out by grade because it's just the 11th graders. Below that, we have participation rate. There are lots of participation rates here, lots and lots of participation rates. So the first one is equity. So this is the participation rate of those students that I just talked about between their 10th grade plan and their 11th grade ACT, that we're looking to see how much they grew. This is the participation rate of those students in that consolidated subgroup. Then in the middle, this is just the 11th grade ACT. So that is the participation rate in each subject area for the 11th graders. And then the last one on the page is the participation rate for each of the ACT assessments. So you have your 9th, 10th, and 11th graders down there. And that is where the SPRs end. Are there any questions on those? one more thing I wanted to show. This is a different report, but it's also available in Fusion. And this shows growth. This is a stacked bar chart that is a distribution of growth. And so for this one right here is a district report. And in this district report, it shows each school within the district. So we have sample district, and then we have the sample schools here. You select your subject area, you select a subgroup, and you select full academic year or mobility. And you can see for each school in the district how growth is distributed among all the students. So this is the percent of students who are in each growth range. So we have low growth, typical growth, and high growth. So this is the percent of students that fall into each one of those. These are 5 different schools in the same district. So I just want to point out here, you can see there's something right here in this third school. They have a higher percent of their students in the low growth category. And this is the school report. So if you drill down and click on that school name, you get to the school report. And this is the percent of students in each grade and where their growth falls into those ranges. So we have nobody in 3rd grade because there's never any growth calculated for 3rd graders. So 3rd grade is always blank.
Leslie?
Yes?
Are those in yet for this year? I can only see last year.
They are not in yet for this year because we haven't published them yet.
So when will we be able to get that data? Not till November?
Oh no, it'll be in the next couple days. Yep. So this is a way to look at each grade within a school to see where the growth is, where good things might be happening. Right here, look at that 41.9. Our 5th graders are showing extra high growth there. There's a lot of students in that high growth category. So that's a good thing right there. That is something to point out when you see a distribution like that. That was all I had on the report. So are there any questions about the reports or the data?
I
Yeah.
have a 3rd grader that's in the equity part. How does that happen?
Shouldn't have a 3rd grader in the equity. One.
One of 21 in the state.
Yeah, 1 of 21 in the state.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was
Come find me afterwards. You shouldn't have 3rd graders in the equity score because you have to have 2 years of 2 years. So
could it be a kid that was held back?
it could be. We'll look that student up individually. It could be that we have the grade level wrong on the report for the student. It might actually be a 4th grader. Yep.
Albany County, for example, has junior high that goes 7th through 9th and high school that's 10th through 12th. Where do those 9th graders go for that year? Do they just kind of disappear into the ethos for a year until they can be reported?
No. So the question was about grade spans. And so Albany County volunteered that they have 9th grade in the junior high, and then they have high school is 10 through 12. So in those situations, your 9th graders, your schools are going to have a report, and this applies to all schools everywhere. If your school serves multiple grade bands, you're going to have more than one report. So if you are, for example, a K-12 school, you're going to have an elementary, middle school report and a high school report. And so those students will be counted in their grade band. And if your school serves more than one of those, you will have 2 reports. So those 9th graders in Albany County are going to be counted at their school. So they will be in the junior high report. And I'm going to have Mike come up to talk a little bit more about it. I think he can explain it better than I can.
There are a couple of schools in Wyoming, or a couple of districts where 9th graders are in junior highs. There's only 2 districts left where that's true. 9th graders are in high schools everywhere else. So in those 2 schools, for the 9th grade credits, those students count for the high school they feed into. and they count for the regular high school in that district for ninth grade credits. For the Explore test in grade 9, those scores are not used for accountability. They're for use with the students and the families.
What other questions do we have? All right, if there's no questions, I'm going to turn it back over to Shelley.